Hello. Hello. It feels odd to use this microphone, but Daniel Knox is making me do it because we're recording this. So I'm going to use the microphone. But thanks for coming out tonight. I know it is the first day of spring, except it's supposed to not be spring tomorrow. And it's warm and many things are happening, but I'm very glad that you are here to spend a little bit of time with us. I see many current parent faces in the audience, and I know there are some new incoming parents coming, so thank you for joining us. Some of you are current parents set to be incoming parents again. Some of you may be prospective parents down the line. So wherever you are on your journey, thank you for being here. I'm gonna, Daniel, how do I, do? Yes, okay. Okay, am I clicking it in any particular direction? Nope, okay. All right. This was my quote for the day because I do think about time and I think about motion, particularly on busy days when I want to be a still point in a ceaseless rush. But this was from our summer reading book this spring, and part of what I loved about the beauty of this book, if you've had a chance to read it or if your kids have talked to you about it, is the way it makes us think about connectivity and time and the way things cycle and how we spend time together and where we might need to pause and think in both the short-term future but the long-term future of where are we going. And that's part of what I want to talk to you about tonight. So I will do one last plug because in about 3 weeks I have to start picking the next summer reading book. For this year's summer reading book, if you haven't picked it up, it's a good read, and I have copies available in my office if you would like one. So a little bit just about, there's kind of two big parts of this. Where are we now and where are we going? And where are we going includes the strategic plan that our board just approved in 2023 that's going to carry us over the next 5 years. So that's mostly what I'm going to be talking about is that next 5-year future, but I'm going to do a little bit of the current landscape in the immediate next year. So in the last 10 years, universities' enrollment has kind of peaked and is settling out in the low 350s. Part of why it's doing that is that's about the number of people we can fit in this building. So if you're thinking about where enrollment will go much beyond the next 5 years, it's going to stay in about this level because we're at our current capacity. We can't easily add more sections unless we add either temporary or another permanent structure. So enrollment continues. We got a little bump around COVID, a spike, but we're really continuing to see strong numbers in the low 350s, which is a great sign of health of the institution. Current enrollment, 358 students. There's the breakdown by grades. Those of you who have sophomores, I don't know what it is about that year, but Ashley told me we could have 105 juniors next year if we wanted. I don't know that we're going to get there, but we continue to have a lot of interest in that class. But we're maintaining averages right now of about 16 to 20 students. Our teachers are keeping that semester load in the low 70s, so that means when they're teaching in a semester, they're only teaching 70 to 75 students for the most part. That's on par with some of our private school peers. It's a little lower than Brebeuf. It's a little higher than Park Tudor. It is way lower than our public school competitors where teachers are teaching probably in the 120s of students. So continuing to allow for a lot of individual attention. And that's how we've done it. This is my 20th year at the school. So I was here when we had 128 students, and we wanted to keep everything low, and we've kept everything low in terms of ratios, even as we've grown over the last 20 years. We tend to stay around 1/3 non-white students and about 1/3, 31%-ish this year, of people on need-based financial aid. So we really want to think about that demographic of diversity, those demographics of diversity. Next year's enrollment looks very, very similar. We'll roll forward in the classes. We'll be in the mid-350s. But I don't imagine any of these things changing, and if you're a new incoming student with like a freshman next year, it's likely that these things won't change too much in the next 4 years because we're capping out at enrollment. So we might increase, we might do better in diversity, might become more diverse. We would certainly welcome that, but this is the trend that we've kind of stabilized at our current enrollment. Any questions on that? Yeah. So the question is, what are we doing with that large class and keeping it the same level? We'd like to keep it, so it's at 98 now, we'd like to keep it right in that range. We don't want any one class to become astronomically different than the other ones. So we're trying to contain it. So if we can hit 98, we will. Some of it is, as we get later in the spring and do offers of admissions for transfer students, we're trying to balance bringing someone in versus who might leave. So it will be about the same range. And that is partly because we want to keep our enrollment in the mid 350s. Yeah? Would perfect enrollment be 98 per class? Yeah, perfect. In some ways, perfect enrollment would be 350 and something like that. 87 and a half children. I couldn't do that math fast enough, Dave. Thank you. Would be 87 and a half children per class. That's where we are, and that's where we'll be in the next few years. Yeah.
So, if you have 80 to 85 freshmen, does that mean 2 years down the road there will be 80 to 85 juniors, or have more students?
So the question is, if we have 80 to 85 freshmen, how will that kind of flow through? Other than, I'm going to go back, the current sophomores, we've picked up kids each class. So these classes started at about 80 and have picked up to 86 and 84. My guess is, we have 90 freshmen now. We're probably going to pick up 1 or 2. And we want to have room for transfer traffic in that way. We have 86 juniors right now. Every year we get maybe 1 or 2 transfer seniors. So we do want to continue some transfer traffic, particularly if we're on the low end of 80 freshmen, then we'll try and bring some in. This particular year, we've had a number of mid-year transfers, so that's part of how we pick up some of that numbers. I'm going to go here and then there. Yeah. Hi. I do not have a gender balance because I forgot to pull it today. I will say that if you are a freshman parent, which is our most skewed gender class, that next year's incoming freshmen are trending about 8 boys heavier than girls, but that's much better than your class is. And we've evened some of it out because we've had some students leave and then we've replaced them with female students. So if you're concerned about that, we are continuing to be attuned to it. And it looks like it's going to trend back closer to 50-50. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. We
each year.
I can do it each year. Yeah.
We retain around between 92 and 95%.
Yeah.
Each year, that's how many come back every year. That when I say that number, that does not include people who move out of state. That's people who have a choice of staying or not. The Isaac's average is around 90%, so we have significantly higher retention in those classes. So over 4 years, that translates to maybe 85%. 80%. Yeah, so every year we retain in the low 90s all our students coming back.
Yeah, coming back. We have a 90% rate, 92 to 95%. One year we had 97.9. I think we lost 3 kids. So it does vary year to year, but a large majority of them stay all the way through 4 years. Yeah. Typically, we lose a few, we gain a few, particularly as we're looking in admissions with the space that we're at, right? So we can't over-enroll, so we want to be particularly mindful of making sure that we're only giving space when we have space available. And some of the transfer traffic of that comes down to, do we have space in 3rd period Algebra 2? Yeah.
Speaking of space,
yeah.
This is going to sound very self-centered. If we reach maximum and we start reaching that every year, and there's no more room for students, that means we're going to start saying no to people. Sorry for being so self-centered, but siblings, will they have any priority over?
Ashley's nodding yes. We always do look at siblings first. And we'll find ways to formalize that. We are at capacity. It is hard to say how many people apply and aren't accepted because we fundamentally don't believe in sending a rejection letter to a 13 or 14-year-old. So if we are in the process of admissions and we notice that this might not be the right fit, we counsel people out before they apply. But we are mindful of size. Last year we filled the class in March, the incoming freshman class in March, when we were turning people away. 2 years ago was the same thing. We do have some space available right now. New students are returning contracts, and then once we finish that, we'll determine what space we have left. So, in terms of financial health of the school, this is the year of, our fiscal year goes July 1st to July 1st. So this is the close of our last fiscal year, which we brought in about $7.7 million in revenue. We don't have to know all of these things, but I wanted to point out heavily relying on net tuition and fees. So this is gross tuition minus scholarships. Vouchers will be included in here, though we didn't take them last year. Still bringing in a bulk of our money. Summer school has grown recently. Some of you even came here as summer school people who then translated into going to school here. That has been a revenue stream source. And then we do rely heavily, these three bands are all dealing with contributed income. So we do take a lot of our revenue from contributed income in a variety of ways. Thank you if you have participated in any of those forms over the course of the year, because they help us fund our school. In terms of expenses, salaries and benefits are where we invest all of our money, most all of our money. We really do believe in being a people-centered school, so we are always going to hire the next person to work directly with the kids over replacing the padded chairs, which you may have noticed have dwindled, though we are on a chair replacement plan now. So most of our expenses go to salary and benefits. We do have a significant bond payment that we are working on, so that's our next biggest factor of managing our debt. You'll notice if you're actually good at on-the-spot math, we did spend last year a little bit more than we took in, so we needed to make that up with some cash reserves. But we are typically pretty close to being even each year. Any questions on finances? Yeah. High-level details. Yes, in fact, this is setting up some strategic plan discussions nicely. So the bond we carry is related to the building of Fairbanks Hall, which opened in 2007, and also the expansion of the gym. So if you've been in our gym, there used to only be bleachers on the side of the hallway. There was nothing behind where the team sat. That was a almost $14 million bond when we took it out. It is $8.5 million now. The bond maturity is 2036. We are hoping to pay it off before then, and I can talk a little bit more about that later, but that's the picture there. Mm-hmm. Another way we think about health of the school, in addition to enrollment and kind of financial health, is we do a student evaluation tool called the Wellington Engagement Index. If you have been here a while, you've heard me talk about this. It is a dot matrix. It is a simple tool for students to basically say, how much do I enjoy this class? That's the x-axis. So if you're going this way, you're really enjoying it. If you're going this way, you're not enjoying it. Then the y-axis is challenge. So if you're coming up here, you're challenged. And if you are going down, you are less challenged. The sweet spot that the Wellington School, which is this private school in Columbus, Ohio that came up to this, it is the engagement quadrant, which is this guy up here, and that's our overall school average. So each dot represents one kid in one class. So your student is putting 6 or 7 dots on the graph when they fill it out. And the goal is not to have everything in engagement, because I got to tell you, one of my favorite classes in high school, sorry Daniel Knox, was band. But I played a lot of trumpet music outside of school, so like for me, band would have been in the entertained. It wasn't necessarily where I was getting my most challenge. For me, they call this quadrant the grind. This was any time I had to take PE, right? And like that's not a fault of the school, but like I did not like PE and it challenged me a lot. And there are gonna be those moments for any student here, but we want a healthy majority in the engaged quadrant. So we do this twice a semester. These are our numbers for the fall. So almost 61% of the dots were in that engaged quadrant, so kids liked it and they were challenged. The bottom quadrant, which I didn't talk about, is bored, meaning you're not challenged and you don't like it. This is like atypically low, that under 5% of our things are here. The people who run the index sometimes ask if we're faking it. We're not. Post-COVID, we've seen more people slip into the grind and a little bit more into the entertained. So pre-COVID, our average of engagement dots was in the upper 60s, and we've seen kind of a split into the entertainment and the grind that we're talking about as a faculty and thinking about why that might be and what, if anything, online learning might have done to contribute to that. So we're mindful of that. But overall, still remarkably good scores. Yeah? We've been doing it since 2017. In the beginning, upper 60s in, the board category. So upper 60s in engaged, and the board was at 4.1. So that hasn't changed much. It's really just, I don't know how, and this is a student assessment of challenge, right? I don't know how they're judging. It's really that y-axis shift that we're seeing, right? So there's some of them are seeing a little more challenge. Some of them are feeling a little less challenged. Yeah? Yes. So what is interesting about the Wellington Index in the Wellington School when they created it is they decided that they were going to make everyone who used it sign a thing that you can't use it to compete with other schools. So they publish so Park Tutor does this. I have no idea what Park Tutor scores are. Sometimes people anecdotally tell me. What I know from Wellington is that this score is remarkable, that for most private schools, you're in the 60% of engaged. They do this for public schools too, and a good engagement score of a public school is about 50%. So that is the bulk of the knowledge I have. The other thing I know is, and I didn't pull it for January term, when January term happens, the engagement score typically goes up closer to 80. And the first time we did it, they called me and actually thought we broke it. Like, you did something wrong, you imported the wrong data, what has happened? And now we've convinced them that we haven't. It's just that people really like J-term. Yeah? Mm-hmm. This is 1 semester or 1 year. We actually have them fill it out 5 times a year. So they do it in they do it in October and December. They do it in at the end of January term, and then they do it in March and May. So the teachers can see kind of where am I at the midpoint of the semester, and then what adjustments might I make given where I am. So this is another way in terms of enrollment shows us health of the school in terms of engaging the community and bringing people in. Financial health shows us about our long-term sustainability, and this shows us kind of about the health and satisfaction of the students. Yeah? Yes. Yes, yeah. I should have built a slide, because I can show you. So one of the awesome things, if you don't know about university, is that every administrator teaches at least one class, so we stay involved in the classroom and understanding what that experience is like. So since I've been teaching here for a very long time, I can log in as a teacher, and it will show me like a line graph of where the challenge axis has gone and where the enjoyment axis has gone over time. So like, are my students perceiving me as more or less challenging? Are they perceiving me as more or less enjoyable as time has moved on? And sometimes it swings wildly from, I'm teaching creative writing, which is an elective full of only kids who want to take it, then enjoyment is really up. And when I'm teaching The Hero, 5th period, to students who need to take 5th period English, that enjoyment tends to go down. So yeah, the teachers can see it. Mentors can see it for students too, so if you were like really interested in what your students have done, we do tell the students it's anonymous, but I can pull that up. And sometimes we have, if we've noticed a like really like anomaly thing, right? Like one student, all of their dots are bored. In fact, I alerted the mentor to that the other day. The assessment was that the student just wanted to stick it to the man and put all their dots in the lower left-hand corner. So that's where that was. Stick it to the man. That's okay because I had one of those mentees for 4 years, so I'm happy to pass that along. Yes? I'm sorry? We use this in individual conversations with teachers. It is in their annual discussion about what are their goals, what are they looking at, how do they see the numbers. And then some of the work I'll talk about in a minute about teaching and learning that we've done over the last 5 years since COVID derives from some of this data. So we are trying to use it to drive institutional change in the school. These are some highlights from just actually the last few months. We've had amazing student achievement. Academic, creative, and physical achievement are the 3 areas of our mission. Our academic team has won their league championship for the 4th straight year. They've won the tournament for the 2nd straight year. I'm looking at Dave because he's the coach. They've won 86 games in a row. Does that sound right? So they are doing quite, they're posing with the trophy. It's not out here right now, but if you've ever been in the lobby and seen this owl trophy, which is just like literally a plastic owl you would buy to put in your backyard. Oh, it's over there right now. Thank you. It was over there until earlier today. The reason that is, well, owls denote wisdom, but the reason that is on the top of the trophy is when they established the trophy, they decided they wanted to make something that looked bigger and more impressive than an athletic trophy. No, they did not spray paint it gold, but it just stares at you from out of that trophy case now. Our DECA program, which is a business and entrepreneurship competition, continues to qualify most all of the chapter for state and national competition. So we had 42 qualifiers, up 10 from last year. We found out a few months ago that we have 5 national merit finalists in our senior class. Jackson Bledsoe, who's a senior, won the Lilly Scholar Award. And then we just found out last week we have 2 Wells Scholars, which is the full ride to IU. It's their most prestigious scholarship, room, board, study abroad stipend. They give out 13 a year, and the fact that we have 2 of them is remarkable. Creatively, we are continuing to involve our students in the arts. Daniel Knox, who does run all of the technology for all of this, so if you've ever watched anything recorded on the internet for the school, if you've ever watched a broadcast of morning meeting, that is largely Daniel Knox doing it. But he also is really good at being a music teacher. We had a solo and ensemble in January and February. We had a number of gold medalists. We had Daniel, 2 gold medalists at state, 3 gold medalists at state? 5 gold medalists? 5. Okay, so 5. So 5 gold state medalists. We have a creative writing student that we just found out last week is one of the 5 Indiana American Voices finalists for the Scholastic Art and Writing Awards. We've had a couple kids, no one hit this level yet, participate. This is an award that you can do visual arts or creative writing. If you test or are judged high enough, you go to a panel in New York City. You get to talk with writers and artists. So Emma Laborski did that for a novel she wrote in a previous class and is moving on in that. And then Tasha Barger, who's over there on the left, or my left, with Alex Altenberg, does our visual arts program. And Alex, you might have seen in the blast earlier, earned a perfect score on her AP exam. There were like 6 in the country, I think, of that. So tremendous work in the creativity and in the arts. And then our sports teams, boys basketball sectionals start on Friday. We've had significant success this year, 7 regional qualifier runners in cross country. Ashley's very excited. And our first time, the boys qualified a whole team, right? So yes, so success there. And then just last weekend, you might have seen on social media, Neiman Kumler, who's a senior, won 2 medals at the state swim finals. So he is 7th in the state in the 100 free, and he is 6th in the state in the 50 free with a time of like 20 seconds, which blows my mind. So it's been a tremendous year of achievement by our students as well, which is partly also how we judge success. Yay. All right, any other questions about this year? Okay. So let's took long-term path ahead. So the mission of the school, the core values of the school continue to guide everything that we do. Some of you may have seen this slide last year, but I'm going to do this metaphor one more time. I play a lot of video games. So when I think about where we're going and where we've been since COVID, I think in video game metaphors. So in the before times, we were playing a happy game with our friends called Super Mario Brothers, and occasionally there were bad guys, but we always won in the end, and it was lovely. All right? Then COVID hit, and this is one of my favorite games ever, but it's about like a zombie infestation, and no one knows what's happening, and it's very scary. And then we made it through, and we started to rebuild. I've actually never played Minecraft, but the kids told me it was a great part of this metaphor. To rebuild, to come out of COVID, and now we're in 2023 and beyond, where we have this huge open world metaphor for what we're doing. So in that spirit, when we were coming out of COVID, the faculty met and we started to talk about the things that really mattered. We have the mission, we have the core values. How are we going to re-articulate coming out of this what things mean to us? And these are the 5 statements we came up with. As a post-COVID school, what do we want to make sure we're really doing? We want to make sure we're staying committed to people first. We want to make sure we're staying committed to relationships driving learning. We want to stay committed to student wellness, because if you're relationship-centered, you need to pay attention to the whole child and their success in the environment. We knew we wanted to be the best stewards of our resources, and we wanted to stay being trailblazers. We wanted to stay on the forefront of what good education is. So this has been a several-year-long conversation that has led to the board adopting last spring our next strategic plan. So now I'm going to shift and talk about kind of the next 5 years of the future, and there might be things that come up that are beyond that, and we can talk about that too. So the strategic plan that the board adopted has 4 major areas and 5 major goals. The first are related to the programming of the school. We know we offer premier college preparatory experience. We want to continue to do that. We want to continue to be an established thought leader in student-centered education. And right before this, I was doing a Zoom with Adrienne with some alums, because we're starting an alumni council. And one of the things we talked about, because we had an alum on there that I actually taught in 2006, who graduated, is there were early days of the school where people believed in us and they came here, but we weren't really well known, right? If they knew us, it was like, you are that weird school of trailers in the cornfield. And we've now become a well-established center for what education could be in Indianapolis, and we want to continue to further that for the next years of the school. So we have several key initiatives here. They are mostly all devoted to figuring out where we are at this current staffing model and making sure everything is kind of shored up around that. So things like making sure we've articulated our new vision of academics, which is the point I'm going to expand upon later. Are we building programs to recruit, retain, and develop faculty in the things we care about in terms of education? It's not that we weren't doing this before, but how are we now doing it looking forward? Do we have the right staffing model at this current full enrollment? Do we have coordination between departments around that culture building of relationship learning? We have great college counseling, we have great learning support. Last year we adopted a wellness department and a director of wellness. How do we incorporate all of that into streamlined student support? And then the last initiative here, some of you know about from a couple years ago, but we're going to finish the build of the Habitat for Community Learning. If you don't know what that is, this is a project that we started actually pre-COVID, and COVID sidelined it. But if you think about, this is the very back corner of this building that we're in. These are the tennis courts. There is a practice soccer field that exists here. Don't worry, in the short term, we're not moving that. But we want to build, back behind the parking lot, some teachable outdoor space for community gathering, for science classes, for wellness initiatives. We received a lead gift pre-COVID towards this project. about $500,000. We're now in the middle of fundraising the second $500,000 to do phase one, which is to dig out the pools for the wetlands, to reshape the dirt hill and have a trail system on it, possibly still sledding, because that's a key driver in the area if you have small children, to build our trail system, to grade out part of our cross-country course, to come back through it. Right now, if you go out there, and Stacy Summitman is happy to take you on a gator tour, it's like a big dirt bowl, and we want to turn it into teachable, usable space. So that is a part of our strategic plan, and how we can develop programming around that to support the academic and wellness aspects of the school. Any questions so far? The second part of our Premier Programs lane is to then take, the first part's about teaching and learning, how do we make sure we're applying those things consistently in extracurriculars, right? Do we have the right staff in co-curriculars like music and art? Do we have the right training in line with our academic program for the coaches, the club sponsors, the people who work with kids who don't work here as faculty? How do we develop programs that support them and continue to move those lanes forward? So that's kind of the second tier. That's the second goal in Premier Programs. The second lane is about community engagement. How do we widen our spectrum of stakeholders to continue to grow with prospective families, but also community connections who can help us realize some of the things that we want to do? So partners who might take advantage of, hey, if you build teachable wetlands and I'm a school down towards 64th and College that has a forest, how might I partner with you to do some co-curricular shared programming? Those types of connections. We want to expand our alumni programming and think about how to involve alumni in a further iteration of kind of their life cycle. So one of the coolest things that happened this year is that I was at a recruitment event in the fall at the Orchard School, and I'm talking, and I'm looking around the room, and there's this mom who looks super familiar, and I can't quite figure it out, and then at the end I realize it's Kristen Alonso, who I taught in 2005, my first year here, and now she has a 6th grader, right? So how do we start to continue to engage our alums, but really get ready for the wave of second-generation kids who might be coming to university soon? So engaging that arm of alumni programming. And then continue to expand summer university to introduce families to the school as a new way. So that's our community engagement strand. Long-term financial sustainability, so this is going to the question about the debt. Some of you have heard, because I just use the same metaphors over and over again, I think of the school like in its lifespan as a human being. So we will be 25 next year, which means we are out on our own, we have finished college, we are balancing the checkbook, we are not yet saving for retirement. All right? So how do we get our bond debt down? How do we establish an endowment? This is a thing that sometimes people don't know about university. We were begun with no major startup gift, so that we don't have an endowment if you've been in a previous private school. The two things that allowed us to get started were a $2 million gift by Ann Andrews, which is why Andrews Hall is named Andrews Hall. And then we had a founding board of trustees that when the school was thinking about where it wanted to open, our options were the basement of a church, an old volleyball camp, and then this land came on the market. And that founding board created an LLC, bought this land, and eventually gifted it back to the school. So those were our startup moments that really allowed us to be here. We wouldn't be the school we are today if we had to start in an old volleyball camp or the basement of a church. So that's what we have, but we don't have an endowment that we're drawing on every year. All of our fundraising dollars go directly back into the operation of the school. We want to get to a point where we are thinking more of an established institution, where we are setting aside funds into an endowment, into some reserves that aren't just the operational cycle. We want to think about the facilities plans that support our learning environment and our current enrollment. The U Center was built in 2002, Dave? This is like one of the only things that happened before I was here. 2003. So it is 20 years old. This building is going to shortly come up on. It's 15 years old. How are we doing the renewal of infrastructure?
Sorry,
Thank you. And then we want to think about auxiliary programs, again, like this summer, that can enhance revenue as well. Any questions about that? The final goal is about leadership and legacy. So how do we, as a mature institution, 25 years old, out of the house, making it on our own, how are we transitioning to become an institution that hangs around for another 25, 50, 100 years in the school? I am honored to be the second head of school at university. I am grateful for those of you who knew Chuck Webster that I got to spend a lot of time with him and learning from him. We have many founding trustees who are still active on our board. We have trustees and emeritus trustees who are here tonight who were very close to being founding members on the board who stay involved. But at some point, the school will have to move to a generation of people who don't remember when the building was first built off the top of their heads. Dave has taught every student. You've been here through the life of every student that has ever graduated. I missed the first graduating class, and Dave predates me. And at some point in time, that will change. So how are we building our leadership and our leadership structure, and how we're thinking about leadership and trusteeship 5, 10, 15 years in the future to weather all of that change as an institution. So getting some of those things in place are our leadership and legacy bit. Yes?
Do you stay this size, or do you expand to cover some of those goals?
In 5 years, we do not expand. Some of you may be here for our 30th anniversary, in which we might be thinking about that. Yes? 30, a little better. Part of the master planning we did before we did the habitat, and I'll get the question in the back, was to think about what land does the school need to be if it's ever going to be between 400 and 500 students. So we engaged a consulting firm, we looked at things, we talked about the third building we have to build. Interestingly enough, my daughter on the way to school just last week pointed to the field and said, "Mom, you don't use that field over there, you should build something in it." I was like, thanks. That large grassy area in the front is where we would build the third building. We realized that we did not need the 30 acres in the back, so some of you have been here for a few years. You know that there's new housing development that's going in there. We actually sold that acreage to pay down some of the debt because we realized we wouldn't need it. But we do have 85 remaining acres, plenty of space to, at some point in the future, be a larger school. I had a question in the back. Better, yeah. Yes, that's in the community engagement, so continuing that alumni engagement. Yes, in fact, the Zoom Adrienne and I were on before this was the beginning of our new alumni council to start to delve into that, because it will become an alumni-generated school. That's kind of the flywheel of an institution, right, where you get people coming back. We have alums who come back to teach now. Some of us are old enough here that we taught them when they were students. And we have alumni who have become trustees. We'll have alumni who will become parents, and we will continue to build that support. Any questions on the strategic plan? And I want to show you one example. Oh, if you want to see and read the rest of it online, Nyla made me this slide. If you go to our website and you go to About and Strategic Plan, you can read more of it, print out a copy at home, hang it up in your bathroom. But let's take the first goal, the first initiative, right? Articulate a renewed vision for academics at university, high school that ensures an innovative and consistent student experience while celebrating teacher autonomy and expertise. So what are we actually doing about that? If you came to this talk last year, I brought up the fact that we have condensed the essence of teaching and learning at university into 8 essential elements. We debated very long if we could get it to 6, so it matched 6 core values, but then some people say, well, when your last core value is really 3 core values, that's 9, could you go to 9? We had a lot of discussion. But we came up with these 8 elements. So students, and I'm not going to read all of them, but that we think about students and teachers as active partners is kind of the starting place. That's that people first initiative. That the curriculum and contents of courses show a diverse perspective, not just so that you have representation of a variety of texts in an English class, but that so students can actually see a version of themselves in that field of study. So like if I am approaching math thinking I'm not good at math, or I'm not good at math in this way where I'm trying to solve similar triangle geometry problems that Parker was asking me about this morning, how can I see a future in math in other ways, right? So how can you see different avenues of being in a field? We believe that inquiry drives learning, that there should be major themes that guide the coursework, that learning continues to cycle between that content and application, and that material is explored in a variety of ways. So you're not just doing problems, but you're creating them. You're not just reading books, but you're watching movies. You're listening to podcasts. You're finding different ways. You're building the boat in chemistry to learn about mass and displacement, to reinforce skills and ideas. And then the last three are kind of about trial and error. Really the new thoughts about learning compared to the old like Horace Mann industrial vision of education is not this idea that like the teacher is the person on stage telling you things that then you write down and spit back out, which was still kind of the learning in the 80s and 90s when I was in K through 12 school. But it is this idea that learning happens continuously, that you're learning together, that there's trial and error, there's room to fail, and there's continuous reflection and self-evaluation. So we came up with these 8 ideas. And now we're working through thinking about, if that's what we believe, go back to 1, that students and teachers see each other as unique individuals and active partners in a learning community, we're trying to work with faculty to design the classrooms that actually do this. Because I will say, if you show this statement to anyone in education, they will be like, yes, of course, that is what we do, that is what we are supposed to be doing. But how do we know that we're actually manifesting it? So talking about things like, what does this actually require? It requires an active relationship to drive learning on both the teacher and the student. So I, as a teacher, have to be engaging to the students in front of me, but I also have to encourage my students not to just sit there and wait for me to tell them the answer. Sometimes they really like that. But how am I bringing that out of them? How do I connect with them on an individual level? And how do I recognize the things that they bring to the classroom, and how do they recognize the things that I bring to the classroom as the kind of guide and facilitator? And some of the conversations we're having lately with students about this relate to Disney World. So if you saw in the blast piece I wrote off of our last faculty workday, I talked about something that clicked in my head on this January term about Disney World that I've taught with Brett Kriebel several times. We watched this video of Joe Rohde, who's a famous Disney Imagineer. He's the guy who helped design Animal Kingdom, and he talks about designing the door into Africa, which is what that is a picture of. And he talks about how if you're designing for Animal Kingdom and you're thinking about the theme, the experience that you want people to have is that they're having a sense of adventure and a sense of exploration, and they're having respect and reverence for the natural world, then you have to factor that into every element of design. So you're putting in a door. Is that door going to be wood or steel? Probably wood. Is that wood going to be rough or smooth? Probably rough. Are the carvings in it going to be geometric or more organic? They're probably going to be more organic. And he goes all the way down to like the tiny carving on the doorknob of a door has been thought about to craft this experience. In theme park building, we call that a dramatic theme and the manifestation theme, right? So if my dramatic theme is that I want people to feel spirit of adventure and discovery and respect for the natural world, I want to manifest that in a fictional African village that is once colonial and now independent. Those two things will guide everything I design in the park. And we can think about a classroom similarly. So if these are the things that I want a student to feel and to understand, how do I engineer the classroom to make sure that is happening? I do that in ways like making sure we welcome each other by name, that we have time to share interests about ourselves, that we don't put the chairs and tables in rows, that sometimes I give students choice, that I'm comfortable with a more decentralized authority, which does not mean chaos, does not mean no authority, right? It's just a little more give and take in that way. So we're doing deep dives on kind of each of these points to think about not just, yeah, it's okay, it's great that we say that's about learning, but how do we actually want it to manifest itself in the classroom? And it isn't that every class will hit all of these bullets, but a teacher should be able to say, here are the things that I'm doing. And then we scaffold that into, how do we talk to new teachers who are looking for a job here about what we expect? How do we promote growth of teachers who are like, yeah, I do some of this, I got element 1 down, we're partners, but I'm really struggling with how to incorporate multiple perspectives into my classroom. So building out a program, that's part of Goal 1, Initiative 1, to do this work. Yeah?
Is this something that you anticipate sharing with the students, or is it just that they will experience this?
We will be sharing it with students, in fact, and parents. We are building a little guide that we'll put out. I'm going to talk about this in a couple morning meetings, because part of the evolution of education that I've seen over here is educators are in the mindset of, yes, we're partners and we're doing this, and sometimes kids, even my own, even the kids in my class, they just want to know the right answer, right? So like, how are we moving them to understanding a different view of what a student is? So we've got work to do on this, and that's what we're going to continue to work on both sides. Any questions on that? Yeah?
So I appreciate that sometimes they want to know the right answer.
Yes.
And given that this is a college preparatory school that focuses very heavily on AP classes,
Yes.
where there is a right
Yes.
answer, is there any consideration for moving from AP to dual credit classes for college preparatory experience?
We have debated that at several points in the school's life. Like, I've sat on committees that have looked at that. I could see us, as we build these things out over the course of the next few years, that we will come to a point of deciding, are we keeping APs, are we not keeping APs? Are we moving to dual credit? Are we doing some sort of this and that? Dave?
And can I add, AP will say, and I don't, and not entirely seen as manifest, they will say AP courses can be taught, for instance, entirely experiential learning. They can be taught entirely problem-based. You can use any curriculum format they will claim and achieve AP standards. Again, I've not seen it as manifest, but that is at least their claim, and so it is not inconsistent in theory that we would have AP and fully articulated.
And AP is evolving, slower than many of us would like. Probably not. So we will, I'd love to say I can, but I don't work for the College Board. So we will continue to work on ways that students can be prepared for the AP exam and also still do this type of learning. And we do have a lot of healthy debates. So I used to teach AP English here when I taught more, and it's a skills-based class and not a content-based class. So that is much different. My thinking of what AP is much different than Mrs. Bradley, who teaches AP Biology, who's like, here's the 5,072 terms that kids have to be able to know and use. And I'm just like, they have to talk about books. So it is a difference that we talk about. But yeah, things like dual credit, exploring that. The only, I suppose we could go back to exploring IB, but that was kind of thinking about the history of the school. The school was originally founded by a bunch of K-8 private independent schools thinking about options. One of them was the international school, and they were part of kind of our investigatory board, and then they at one point split off because they wanted to go IB, and the rest of us did not. So they founded their high school, we started university. Maybe we'd pick up IB, but I think that's a longer shot. This is, like I said, so some of the stuff we're looking at with educational philosophy, creation of the essential elements, this all started post-COVID, and now we're in this phase. We're doing some course alignment with our structure of kind of the sequencing, the scope and sale. Are we covering the things in language and literature that really prepare them for great books, that prepare them for the advanced English classes? And then over the next 3 years, we're going to roll out these summer cohorts where we do individual small group deep dives on teaching and learning. So this is how we're fulfilling Goal 1, Key Initiative 1. It was really the faculty talking It was partly like we'd been holding on to the boat in the storm, right? And we kind of, it isn't that we lost our heart, but like the ground beneath us or the ship beneath us was moving a lot, and we needed to restabilize. The year right after COVID, we came back in hybrid learning, and we were talking about so much has changed, right? We really want to look at where are we, what do we think we're doing that's right? Because like teaching on Zoom was not great, but it did teach us a lot about like what mattered, which is a lot of this relationship-driven learning. I mean, one of the things I'm most proud of about the school is that we were the first to do live, in-time, real-time instruction online. We did it in 2 days. No other school did it that quickly in central Indiana. And that taught us something about how we were able to do that, the benefit of actually seeing the students every day, even if it was just a view of their ceiling fan because they were in their pajamas and you could just hear this disembodied voice. But that was so much more meaningful than just sending a worksheet out into the world and hoping that it came back. So it was that. It was going through that experience together as a faculty and then stepping back and saying, what does all this mean and where do we want to go? All right. I'm going to take some more questions. But first I'm going to go very quickly over the rest of the year. So this is the ceaseless rush. If you remember my opening quote, we've had a little still point looking forward. Here's the ceaseless rush to the end. These slides will be available probably on our website, Nyla. We'll put these slides somewhere. The recording's available, but March continues to chug along. If you have a freshman or sophomore student, just later this week we have a financial aid evening. Boys basketball section will start. The academic team's state championship tournament is at 9 a.m. I missed my M. Music concerts. If you are a current parent, please make sure you have these dates down for mentor conferences. Are right before spring break. Our spring break is the first week in April. April then, we are having school the day of the eclipse. We may be down to being the last school in the state of Indiana. But we believe we have a unique opportunity with, one, a lot of land where people can spread out and watch the eclipse, and two, we employ 2 people with PhDs in astrophysics. That's right, you made a face.
Brandon's PhD is in physics, his functional theory of astrophysics.
Yes, and Dr. Hogan would say he's found more black holes than Dave Vesper, so there's a little back and forth that's happening here. But we have 2 faculty members who are going to lead us through an assembly so we can talk about what we're seeing. You are welcome to come and attend if you want. We have ordered 500 watch the eclipse glasses. The totality happens at about 3:05. It will have finished its totality by the time school is over. We reasonably believe children will be able to leave to have sports practice, so we are having school that day. It's our first day back from spring break. Those of you who are returning students or new students, the PA is sponsoring the J-Term Preview Night, Thursday, April 11th. That's where we talk about next year's January term offerings. If you're a current parent, please make sure we have any grandparent or special grand friend information so we can invite them to Grandparents' Day. The play happens in April. If you are a new incoming family, you should have on your calendar April 23rd and 24th for new student registration. That's when you'll come in and you'll pick your child's courses for next year. We'll talk about freshman retreat, all of those things. Ashley Crockett-Lohr. You'll get to choose. So you only have to come to one night. You will get to choose. And if neither of those nights work, Ashley Crockett-Lohr, if neither of those nights work, we will work with you. Yes. And then finally, May, we have one more open house. The PA has their annual meeting there to elect officers. We have some cool events, some of which you're invited to, some of which you aren't. You're not invited to prom, but it's going to be at the Hotel Carmichael and be really cool. You can talk to your kids about it. I will say this is the first time we had it happen last year. Our prom is all-inclusive, so all grade levels are welcome. We opened ticket sales to juniors and seniors first. We sent out 3 emails. We announced it every day for 2 weeks in morning meeting. And then we opened ticket sales up to freshmen and sophomores. And then we had seniors last year who were like, but I never got my ticket and now you're sold out. We were able to help We were able to add some seats and do some things, but we are going to try and do that better this year. So if you have a junior or senior student, please encourage them to purchase their prom ticket soon when they go on sale. Anything else to say about that, Adrienne? We've never sold out prom before, so bigger venue. If you're around on May 10th, Daniel Knox and his amazing musicians do coffee. We have a coffee truck come. We do it out on the lawn if the weather's nice. They sing small groups, pop songs. It's a great time. Those of you who have current students, Academic Recognition Night, which is where we do our National Honor Society inductions, our Spanish Honor Society inductions, our Cum Laude Society inductions, is May 21st, and then graduation, June 1st at the Palladium. I know this sounds weird, but if you want to really understand what university is about, go to graduation before your child graduates. It is amazing. Some of you have had kids graduate and now know for the second. It is a true testament to everything that we are. It is done in approximately 90 minutes. 2 hours. It's always 2 hours. It was 2 hours, I got to tell you, when we had 40 kids graduating, and now it's 2 hours when we have 85. I don't know how that works, but graduation June 1st. Any other questions? I don't know what time it's 8 o'clock. I'm 8 o'clock on the dot. Oh, I didn't put future years. So our 25th anniversary gala is on August 24th, 2024. It is Saturday. It will be at the Palladium. We would love to have as many friends attend as possible, so please save that date too. Yeah. April 11th. It is often our most well-attended event of the year, I have to say. And the PA does some nice stuff beforehand. They'll have a reception for parents, beer, wine, snacks. It's a fun time. All right. No other questions? Thank you for coming and listening. I hope this was informative and helpful. As always, if anything is ever on your mind, please don't hesitate to reach out to me, to Dave, to Ashley or Taylor if you're a new student. You can pretty much ask anyone who works here anything you want, and if they don't know the answer, they'll help you figure out how to get it. That's one of the awesome things about this place. Nyla, you had a hand. Was that I was supposed to do something, or just scratching your head? Excellent. All right, thanks, guys. Get cookies, get water. Have a great night. Thank you.